Good evening, everyone. I'm Councilwoman Susan Berland. Welcome to our first annual Huntington Youth Council Science Forum. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Huntington Youth Council, I founded the organization in 2003 to give Huntington students an opportunity to discuss issues that confront the youth in our community and plan events that involve their peers and local issues. The Youth Council is comprised of students from all of the 9 public high schools in the town of Huntington. They're a great group of students who work tirelessly to educate their peers on issues that matter to them while raising thousands of dollars for local charities in the town of Huntington. This evening's Science Forum will feature presentations made by Huntington students who participated in the Students and Science Environmental Research Scholarship Program, which is sponsored by Huntington Breast Cancer Action Coalition and the town of Huntington. The Students and Science Environmental Research Scholarship Program focuses on the study of breast cancer together with environmental research, with the goal of discovering scientific knowledge related to the connection between our environment and cancer, and looking to discover what causes cancer and other chronic diseases in a hope to find a cure. This evening promises to be an interesting supplement to the science curriculum in Huntington's high schools and offers the opportunity to appreciate the strides that our Huntington students are making in the scientific community. So it's never too early to start exploring a bright idea that you may have. I urge everyone here this evening who's interested in science, get involved in scientific research. I hope you leave here this evening inspired to make a difference in your community and make that next discovery that's going to make the difference in our world. So I want to thank the science and research teachers in Huntington, in all of our Huntington public high schools, for encouraging their students to attend our event tonight. Each presenter this evening will make a 5-minute presentation. At the 4.5-minute mark, you will hear a warning bell, which tells you you have another 30 seconds left for your presentation. At the end of the 5 minutes, you will hear, perfect, which shows that the time for the presentation is over. Then we will have a question and answer period led by our Youth Council member Bailey over here. Bailey, raise your hand. There you go. So if anybody has questions for the presenter, they'll come over to Bailey and they will ask their questions for the audience. So a special thank you, first of all, goes out to the Huntington Breast Cancer Action Coalition for joining us here this evening and their support in making this program such a success. Now, to begin the program, I'd like to introduce to you Karen Miller, the queen of the Huntington Breast Cancer Action Coalition, who's going to say a few words. Round of applause for Karen Miller.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan. Susan and I have been working together virtually for years before the Student and Scientist program. So it is our collective belief, and for everybody in the Town Council, that everything we do has to really benefit the community. So the Student and Scientist Research Program from Huntington Breast Cancer Action Coalition is just one of those ideas. For many years, HBCAC has been involved in breast cancer and the sciences, what causes breast cancer, and we have a full-rounded program at Huntington Breast Cancer Action Coalition. The town also supports our Lend a Helping Hand program. So for those women in our township, of which I think there are 68,000 households, and many tens of thousands of women that have gotten a diagnosis of breast cancer, and I might say some men have gotten a diagnosis of breast cancer. We're only a phone call away. We provide survivor support services and have been doing that for 25 years. But we keep wanting to break down the boundaries, and one of the responsibilities that we felt that we had to address was what's going to happen when the advocate community who is involved in the environment and environmental public health gets old like me. So we were thinking about the generations of the future, and we knew that the Huntington schools had extraordinary resources, that all of the students in these schools really were focused on doing their best in many different programs. This is before we even knew about STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And so now we're seeing that our program really falls into that category when it comes to science. So HBCAC, as I said, was founded 25 years ago, and what set us apart from many other health organizations and many other breast cancer organizations is that we wanted to know about the prevention of disease. We were never requesting a cure. We wanted better treatment. We wanted the doctors to have the best tools in their toolbox to help women once they're diagnosed. But the most important priority for us was that we did not want a plethora of more women and more families affected by breast cancer. So we prioritize prevention. Interestingly enough, in those many years ago, 25 years ago, we were a fringe group. We were not accepted even by many breast cancer groups. We were very radical. They wanted to know why we wouldn't say cure, that we were saying cause. So I'm happy today that the Student and Scientist program, which has been ongoing since 2008, which is succinctly involved in the environment and the causation of the environment on diseases like breast cancer. Students that you'll be hearing from today are quite extraordinary. Many of our students have gone on, I could say most of our students have gone on to win full scholarships to Johns Hopkins, Brown's, Cornell, Columbia, and I just got a call that our first student in 2008 was accepted to Columbia Medical School. So whether or not our students end up as physicians with a bend towards environmental health, so they know the families that they're treating more personally, or they go on to environmental law, environmental engineering, or be a wonderful researcher that will actually show the connections between the environmental triggers of disease and the onset of disease, we're very, very proud that the town of Huntington believes in our program and that we have community support. Hot off the presses, there's actually only maybe a dozen copies. For the last 2.5 years, 19 people across the country were actually asked to look at what we think is a focus that the Health and Human Services of the United States needs to put on on disease like breast cancer. And what is hot off the presses that we've put together after 2.5 years is called Breast Cancer in the Environment, Prioritizing Prevention. Throughout this book, we talk about what the students are going to talk about today, which is they not only have to understand the science, but they have to be able to communicate the science. Because as we find current things coming out of our scientific arena, and our students and the researchers are able to tell the community in real time what's happening and what we can do to protect ourselves, I think that the incidence of disease will be lowered. And thank you very much for making us part of this program.
Thank you, Karen, for everything you do for the women and men of the town of Huntington. All right, so without further ado, let's introduce our co-supervisors of the Huntington Youth Council, Grant Berland and Jesse Feldman-Stein, and Deputy Supervisor Dylan Wadler, to introduce this evening's speakers.
Kayla Neville is a senior at Comac High School and conducted research through the Department of Biomedical Engineering at Stony Brook University. Kayla sought to determine the efficacy of various surface coatings for solubilization and for drug delivery into cells. Her project is titled The Effects of Surface Coatings on the Drug Delivery Capacity of Graphene Nanoribbons.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Neville. I'm a senior at Comac High School. It is safe to assume that everyone in this room has been impacted either directly or indirectly by cancer. Cancer is the second leading cause in the United States, exceeded only by heart disease. In fact, 1 out of every 4 deaths can be attributed to cancer. These past 2 summers, I am fortunate to have had the opportunity to learn more about the human aspects of chemotherapy treatment through the Huntington Breast Cancer Action Coalition and the scientific side of chemotherapy treatment through my work at Stony Brook University in Professor Sitharaman's lab. Currently, chemotherapy treatments are devastating and are sometimes worse than the disease itself. Chemotherapy treatments are designed to target not only malignant cancerous tissue, but also rapidly dividing cells like the stomach lining, the hair follicles and blood cells. And this causes many adverse side effects that we all know, such as nausea, hair loss, and a suppressed immune system. In order to minimize these adverse side effects, a targeted drug delivery system can be used. A targeted drug delivery system is something that will take the drug directly to the malignant cells while not targeting the benign cells. There are many different ways a targeted drug delivery system can be fabricated. However, I focused on my project on using oxidized graphene nanoribbons, which is a type of carbon-based nanoparticle. The reason I chose to work with oxidized graphene nanoribbons is because they have many beneficial properties, such as the fact that they can be multifunctionalized, and they can also have visible properties in the ultraviolet and visible spectrum. And so my project was basically a couple of steps. The first step was to synthesize these oxidized graphene nanoribbons because they do not naturally occur. And next, I wanted to characterize them or make sure that what I synthesized was actually working and was actually made. And then after that, I had to coat it with different surface coatings because the oxidized graphene nanoribbons are not soluble in water, which could lead to really bad side effects if you put them into humans currently, if you inject into the bloodstream, because they won't be soluble. So I wanted to coat them with different surface coatings that would provide for solubility and see which one of those coatings worked the best. And that was essentially the essence of my project. So after I synthesized and characterized and coated these nanoparticles, I wanted to make sure that they would work, that they would deliver the drugs to the cells more efficient than what we have currently. So the way I did this was I tested the platform, the drug delivery platform, by loading it with doxyrubinicin, which is a known anti-cancer drug. So if the doxyrubinicin went into the cancer cells, it would kill the cells. So I loaded it onto the targeted drug delivery system, and then I performed a cell viability assay, or basically just seeing how many cells remained alive after being exposed in contact with this targeted drug delivery system. And what I discovered that was, I had many beneficial discoveries, but the first one I discovered is that my targeted drug delivery system delivered the chemotherapy treatments to the drugs 3 times more, in 3 times more concentration than what is currently existing. And also, what was unique was my project was testing the different surface coatings, and I found out that there are different surface coatings were favored by different cell lines. So the breast cancer cell line and the cervical cancer cell line both had different surface coating preferences, which could be beneficial in when we use for biomedical purposes. And I just wanted to acknowledge the Huntington Breast Cancer Action Coalition and Professor Sitharaman for letting me have this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Okay.
Oh, this microphone? Oh, okay. How are these oxidized graphene microribbons used? Like, how do they put it in?
So currently they're not really used for many things. There are different forms of carbon that are used for different properties. For example, in these nanoparticles, variants of this nanoparticle can be found in sunscreens and cosmetics now, but they have much potential to be used in improving chemotherapy treatments.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
was a wonderful presentation.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed that. What do you think would be the advantages of having a targeted drug delivery system over one that is not targeted?
Well, the main goal of using a targeted drug delivery system, like you could just, if you know anyone who has gone through cancer or chemotherapy treatments, you know the adverse side effects. You know the most noticeable one is hair loss and the suppressed immune system, and there's so many horrible, devastating side effects. And that's because these anti-cancer drugs, which are so potent, are targeted to all the different cells. But if they were only targeted to the harmful cells, then there wouldn't be as like hair loss. There wouldn't be an suppressed immune system. It would be only like the bad cells would die, where the good ones will live. So
there would be reduced systemic toxicity from some of these agents.
yes, yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm a little curious, how do they go about oxidizing the graphene nanoribbons?
That's performed by, well, what you do is you take there's a form of carbon, carbon nanotubes are readily available. And how you form the carbon nanotubes into the oxidized graphene nanoribbons is basically through a process. There's a protocol that you follow, and it converts the ketones in the in the nanotubes to carboxylic acid, ketones to carboxylic chains, and it basically just longitudinally unzips the tube into flat sheets, and that makes it easier to be used.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. One last applause.